And welcome to the Breakaway with David and Fabian. We have a jam-packed show for you. Just a few seconds ago, some big news happened in Los Angeles, and I can't wait to talk about that. Besides that, we have an incredible reaction series that we did with Haley McAnally, who is a big conservative political influencer and a great person overall. And we're going to talk about some boys and girls bathrooms.
Yep, on Capitol Hill. Chaos on Capitol Hill. Nothing new here, right?
always some malarkey happening.
Malarkey's always it's DC.
It's DC. It's Atlanta malarkey.
Exactly. But I'm excited to talk about it. I mean, we have a jam-packed show like we were talking about. As always, guys, if wherever you're watching, like, subscribe, share. It really helps with the algorithm, the censorship that we're constantly facing. So we really appreciate it. If you have any questions or anything, leave them in the comments. We're going to get to them at the end of the show. But jam-packed show, mass deportations by military, right, in a case of an emergency. And that's what's being flirted around. And we're going to talk about that. Like you said, the whole boys and girls bathroom thing, Capitol Hill, and amazing reaction. So, Fabian, I think you created an incredible video just a couple days ago where you perfectly explained the whole discussion around the mass deportations using the military and emergency clause to actually be able to tap into military sources and whatnot. Yep. So why don't we play that for the folks? And why don't you tell us a little bit about that too?
Yeah, so this is going to be a video that I shot just a few days ago regarding exactly what Trump wants to do and how he would actually do it, because there's a lot of questions surrounding, is he going to use the military? What's going to happen? So this is something that I actually made in order to kind of talk about what's going on. So let's go ahead and run it. He is looking to use military force to deport illegal immigrants and to destroy violent gangs in America. The left-wing media is up in arms about this, but here's how it could actually work. The president is considering invoking the 1798 Alien Enemies Act, which was used after World War I, II, and after 9/11. The president could order the arrest, detention, or deportation of any alien subject of a hostile nation. And when it comes to gangs, this method was just used in another country, El Salvador, which went from being one of the most dangerous places in the world, and I've seen it with my own eyes, to one of the safest now by using the military to search and imprison tens of thousands of members of the violent gang MS-13. So what else could he do? Well, he could remove funding to sanctuary cities. These are cities in blue states that will not allow law enforcement to work with ICE, basically protecting illegals from the justice system. The issue is these states don't have enough money to provide housing, food, phones, and everything else that they give illegals. So cutting off funding would force states to play ball with the government, since they literally can't do this without the government grants. Besides that, the National Guard is already helping enforce illegal border crossings. Texas activated its National Guard to protect the border, since the Border Patrol has its hands tied due to it being a federal agency. Other states have also offered to send their National Guard to Texas to help with manpower. This is a developing story, so make sure you follow.
Oh, you have it there. I think you laid it out perfectly there. And obviously you made this story because everybody was going crazy, not everybody, but the left and the media were going crazy about the fact that Trump retweeted and said true to a tweet that said, is Trump going to use the military or declare an emergency in order to be able to tap into the military for his mass deportation plan? And he said true. So yeah, made that video.
It is incredible the amount of things that are being strung out and put out online right now. We know that the left is desperately trying to find a way to capitulate, or not to capitulate, but to at least mitigate the damage done by this disastrous election that they had. I mean, they lost the popular vote. They lost the electoral vote. She didn't do better than Biden in any county in the entire country. Like, that is a despicable loss. And it looks like they're grasping for straws right now, trying to just find some way to still scare the American people into getting what they voted for.
Absolutely. I'm all for it, honestly. Keep doing that. Keep playing this stuff, because you'll just keep losing more and more elections. But I think this is actually brilliant, because the issue, which we just saw a couple minutes ago, is that city after city is going to go out and say that, you know, we're essentially solidifying the fact that we're a sanctuary city. We will not comply with immigration law enforcement or any, like ICE, specifically ICE. And before we went live, what city declared that as well?
So as of 1 hour ago, the Los Angeles Council unanimously voted to approve sanctuary city law. This means that an ordinance prohibits any resource of the city or personnel from being used to help federal enforcement of immigration laws.
They're essentially codifying the whole notion around sanctuary cities, that like we're not going to comply with any immigration services that are somehow going to, I guess, I don't know, deport individuals from the city or bring them in front of a judge or actually deport them from the United States. And that's what's going to keep on happening. So if you have this massive mass deportation plan, which President Trump promised all of us on his campaign, and you want to fulfill it, you don't want to have too many roadblocks. And those roadblocks are these sanctuary cities. So what do? You declare an emergency, and then you have new resources available for you, new logistics that you can use through the military. ICE is limited. There's a certain capacity that ICE has in terms of jurisdiction, in terms of resources, when it comes down to actually implementing a mass deportation plan. You know who doesn't have necessarily a limitation? The military.
Yeah, and so we've seen, well, first of all, I do want to say this is going to be a battle that's going to play out probably in the court system. It's going to be an attack on federalism, an attack on the separation of powers between essentially what is the state and the federal government. But in that time, we're going to see a lot, I think, of laws or the Supreme Court possibly have to step in and say this is what it has to be. Because on one hand, you're literally having states that are saying we're going to harbor what are criminals and not allow the justice system to be applied to them. Now, we were talking about withholding funding of sanctuary cities. So in the video, I mentioned that these cities cannot fund, except for California, because we have such a massive economy, but states like even New York can't use their budget enough, or they don't have enough budget to pay for their phones, their housing, all these things. So one way the government can play ball is saying, we're going to send the military in to scare them and say, but there's a way out. You can let us in, or we're going to withhold all of your funding, and good luck being able to pay for all this without the government grants.
I think it's a smart play. We were discussing this a few days ago, is that perhaps the approach of stripping federal funding, or at least, dangling it as a carrot above these sanctuary cities. Like, let's see how much you guys actually care about your own citizens, because you have to understand, if you strip certain funding from these sanctuary cities, it's going to actually impact American citizens. Now, of course, President Trump, the administration, you and I, we don't want to do that for our fellow American citizens. But in a sense, they're being held, hostage by these corrupt officials in their cities, because they rather, protect criminal, right? We're not talking about hardworking, undocumented migrants. We're talking about criminals who already been into jail, and you're protecting them and holding your own citizens hostage. Let's see how far that goes when federal funding is in question here, when it comes down to public resources, right? Like public transportation and whatnot.
Imagine this. Imagine you're an illegal and you've committed a crime in America. Then you see, number one, you're having everything paid for. Your lifestyle is paid for. You're doing zero for the country. You've committed a crime. And then California says, hey, we're already not prosecuting for crimes. Now we're going to shield you from the federal government. So you're creating this ultra class of people who can do anything they want outside of the law. Meanwhile, the rest of the population has to abide by all these strict laws, standards, licensing, taxes. Like, you are literally creating a divide between the citizens of a country and the non-citizens. This reminds me of the same thing they've done with race, where they tried to divide people for so long it worked, and now because it's all breaking down, and even blacks, Latinos, Asians, all siding with Trump, they have to go to their next oppressive victim, which are the illegals. Yeah. And now the arms of protection of the Democratic mom state is going to harbor all these people and say, you know what, we're going to protect you from them.
Yeah, exactly. It should be interesting to see how this all plays out again, because again, the scenario is pretty interesting. Will they just comply with mass deportation of criminals? Again, so let's be specific with who we're starting with. And maybe that is all that we're going to get, is actual criminals, people who've been in the courts or been through the criminal system and are out in these sanctuary cities. Should be pretty interesting to see.
One other thing that I think is going to be really interesting, and we'll see how sanctuary cities hold up to this is if you're an illegal in any state that doesn't have sanctuary cities, where are you going to go? You're not going to go back to your country. You're going to flee to the state that has sanctuary cities. So you're going to see a massive remigration, I guess you can call it, of illegals into sanctuary cities. What's that going to do? How many of these people can they actually fit until the population just goes crazy and demands or starts, doing something crazy like in California or in Colorado?
Yeah, no, exactly. And that's kind of plays into the cloud pivot strategy, right? Is that essentially you start to have a quote unquote revolution, right? The populace is upset that the welfare system is overloaded by illegal immigrants. And in this case scenario, it's like, okay, what if the city, the bureaucrats in the city are holding essentially the American individuals hostage by protecting the illegals, which ends up stripping funding from them, directly impacting the American citizens. Like you said, will they do something about that eventually?
It's going to be interesting to see.
Game.
Yeah, this is going to be the battle of Trump's administration, and they love it. This is going to be the hill that they're willing to die on. The Democrats, if they choose to continue to go the route of this, and we've seen protest. I'm going to say protest with the bunny ears because they're not organic protests, but protests by illegals are now starting to pop up. And I remember I said this last year. This is going to be the next thing. They're done with BLM. Now they're done with the pro-Palestine stuff. Who's the next victimized people that they're going to prop up? These same organizations, the George Soros organizations and all these other ones, are organizing now illegal migrants to protest the government. Yeah. It's like, which class of people are they going to use next? It's really insane to think about it.
The only concern that I have with this, which I think that we should discuss, is obviously you are tapping into emergency reasons, or you're essentially you're bringing out an emergency. You're declaring an emergency. There you go. I found the word finally. Declaring an emergency, which brings the executive new powers. Perhaps it's old powers, but you're inheriting powers during an emergency time. Is he going to give those powers back when the emergency is over? Or is that going to be a new power inherited by the executive branch?
Yeah. Gavin Newsom obviously wants to run for president. I've seen by all accounts and measures, I've seen that he is now the person for 2028. I don't know who else they have at this point. I don't understand what if this issue already lost the election, what are you fighting for? How is it going to help you in 2028 when now you're shielding illegal immigrants from the federal government, which people voted to do? Right? What demographic are you trying to build up? It just, to me, it really doesn't make any strategic sense, other than the fact that people don't care if the Democrats or Republicans win or lose, as long as there's division and chaos in America that breaks down the society more and more, regardless of who wins.
Just a quick little point about what you said in terms of Newsom being like the 2028 nominee. They had a poll come out this morning. They surveyed who would you want to have as your 2028 Democrat nominee? And can you guess who was at the very top of the list?
Not Newsom?
It's not Newsom.
Interesting.
It's Kamala Harris, polling at a whole 41%. Can you guess who was in second place?
Bernie?
It was Newsom, but you know at what percentage? At 8%.
Wow.
So they're polling Kamala Harris at 5 times more than Newsom. And I'm all for it. I mean, keep running her. Run her in 28, run her in 32. And then maybe by 36, you may learn something. But please do. If they thought that she just didn't have enough time, no, it's not it. It's just what we're looking at in terms of us discussing this mass deportation. It's something that Democrats will never consider. Yet majority of Americans are actually in favor of mass deportations, and not the way that the left is trying to label it, the way that you and I have been talking about it. Going into these sanctuary cities, cracking down on criminals who are undocumented individuals in the country, and breaking down this whole sanctuary utopian idea that they have. You don't want to comply with ICE, you don't want to comply with the federal government, no problem. We're either going to strip your funding or we're going to bring in the military to have untapped resources in order to extradite these people. It's weird. You have to extradite them almost out of your own country. It's weird to think about, right? There's a city in your own country that is harboring the individual that you need to put in front of the court.
Absolutely. The only thing that I can think why Gavin Newsom is choosing to go this route. Anyone listening who hasn't heard, he said he is going to Trump-proof California so that Trump cannot implement any of his plans. The only thing strategically that I can see is that if he comes out and he's the one that's battling the president for the next 4 years, he will establish himself as the fighter for the left, and then have that as a voting population to say, look, I fought him for 4 years. I know how he runs things. I know how to fight him. If I'm president, I can beat the Republican machine. That's the only thing that I see that they believe would be a benefit for him in 4 years.
Absolutely. Well, he called in the legislation for a special legislation right now in order to codify everything in the Californian utopian mindset right now against the boogeyman Trump, right? So I think you're absolutely right. But is this smart by Democrats? Because they just lost on all the mandates that they ran on. So what is he going to do? Codify the most extreme left positions of the Democrat Party in order to continuously lose for them? Again, I'm all with it, right? I hope they don't listen to our podcast so they don't get some free advice here, but they're ignorant. They're just going to keep going with this. It's what they've been battling themselves over and over the last few weeks. They're eating their own right now. They're blaming each other. It's identity politics. It's not enough populist economy, whatever it is. Like Crystal Ball today, she was talking about how, oh, the American people or the Democrats are so out of touch with people. They need universal health care. And it's like, actually, yes, continue saying that, because that's exactly why you guys lose. The average middle American doesn't want to pay 3-4 times higher premiums to subsidize 20 million Americans. That is not the populist agenda. So anyways, that's for difference.
It's going contrary to what people voted for with an alarmingly large mandate. And like we've been saying, I think they have no direction. I think this is just what they're doing for now. I know Gavin Newsom flip-flops depending on what's popular at the time for himself. So we could see a future where he dials back on some of these things or vetoes legislation that his supermajority Democrats in the state have, to say, look, I'm more of a centrist. I'm vetoing stuff that I think is too extreme. We saw him veto this law, AB 957, I believe, last year, which people didn't think that he was going to veto, and he did. So it remains to be seen what happens. But regardless of it, we are living through very interesting times. Things are moving very quickly, and we've seen a Democratic Party in collapse, and they're trying to figure out what's going on.
Well, let's continue talking about the Democrat Party absolutely collapsing, and it's to another story that is happening now in Capitol Hill. Nancy Mace is causing Democrats to absolutely lose their mind, but not just the Democrats in terms of like the voters or whatever people, whoever they are that we see them on Twitter. They could be bots, NPCs, whatever it is, but also politicians. So Nancy Mace is all over the internet this morning because she put out a piece of legislation forth in front of the House floor where she wants to essentially make a rule on Capitol Hill that non-biological women, that if you're a biological male, you can't go into a women's bathroom and vice versa, right? And why would they need to implement such a law? Because for the first time ever, a congressman, a House representative was elected that is a transgender individual. It's a dude who became a woman, right? I'd say looks like a woman if you don't look too hard. Sorry, YouTube, I don't want to get cut up here, but whatever.
That's your opinion. That's your opinion.
Yeah, it's my personal opinion.
You're not into dudes.
Yeah, there you go. So, what? We get cut? Ooh.
Know exactly what happened, but as soon as we said that, we had our camera shut off, which was very weird.
It's never happened before, right?
Yeah, last time we got banned from TikTok while we were live because they thought we were denying the election, which we were not. And now, as soon as we say this, our cameras go out.
That was pretty crazy. Yeah.
This is what we deal with on a daily basis, by the way. You never know what's going to happen when, because of what we say. And hopefully Trump passes legislation to fix all this trash.
Absolutely.
And just allow free speech.
That's crazy. Literally mid-sentence, all of our stuff just dropped. The second that I said YouTube, that's my personal opinion. It just completely dropped. Wow. But That was crazy. But
they're watching it live here.
They're watching live. Let's pick up where we were. So
Yeah.
obviously Nancy Mace, everybody's going crazy about that, but it shouldn't be too crazy, right? I mean, I understand her point. She doesn't want that to happen, but of course everybody's going crazy about that. So why don't we play the ABC clip? Actually, I can't do it from my end because of the audio issue, but this is ABC running up on Nancy Mace to get her take about the piece of legislation she put forth. So why don't we watch this?
Here's Congresswoman Mace. Congresswoman Mace, can I ask you a question as you walk here? Mm-hmm. So the question is, with your piece of legislation about banning women from using,
yes.
My question to you is,
and it doesn't go far enough. I'll be filing more bills.
You have said that it was created in response to Congresswoman-elect McBride.
100%. And
but should legislation be created targeted at one specific person?
It doesn't mention anyone in the legislation, but
you've said it was aimed at her.
No, I have said it's a result of this. I'm not going to allow biological men into women's private spaces. I will stand in the brink and stand in the way of anyone on the radical left who thinks that it's okay for a penis to be in a women's locker room or a bathroom or a changing room. Hell no. I am not going to stand for it. And the speaker said it would be in the House rules package. If it's not, I will be ready with a motion, a privileged motion to force a vote on this. This is not okay. I'm a survivor of rape. I'm a survivor of sexual abuse. And I'm not going to allow any man in any female private spaces.
Now, Speaker,
end of story. And by the way, I'm getting death threats from men pretending to be women. Why is it that these crazy people, the insanity, the radical left, are willing to kill women over a man's right to be in a women's restroom?
Speaker Johnson has said he wants to treat every new member with the words dignity and respect. Forcing this congressperson to go into a male restroom, is that dignity and respect?
Forcing women to share private spaces with men is not dignity and not respect. And I'm absolutely going to stand in the way of anyone who thinks it's okay for a man to be in our locker room, in our changing rooms, in our dressing rooms, in women's bathrooms. And in fact, if you agree with that, you're crazy, because that's not okay. It's not okay.
Congresswoman,
Thank you, Congressman. We're going to...
Good to go. Yeah, Fabian. So, what I want to actually touch up on there is that at the end, he was talking about how Speaker Johnson came out and said that we're going to respect everybody that comes into Congress with like dignity and whatever he said. So, but the reality of that before Speaker Johnson came out and said that, he mentioned something so plain and so simple that I didn't think that the Speaker of the House, the third most powerful person in the world, would have to say, because it's something that you learn in first grade, something that you probably even learn in kindergarten. We have that video. When we play Speaker Johnson's video about, let's do this.
Yeah, and while you're getting that queued up, the interesting thing is that she had to bring out the big guns. She had to say, I've been raped, I have PTSD, and this is why I don't want it. Now, that's great. But the emotional argument shouldn't be what we say. Yeah, look, that's why it can't happen. It should be because these are grown-ass adults who are making laws. And if you're making laws, you should understand that there's a way things are done. I get what they're trying to push. They've been trying to push it for a very long time. And they're doing it right now, but things are changing. But I don't think that she should have had to say, because of this, then I need this. It should be, no, it's not that, because it's not fucking right.
Yeah,
that's the whole point.
I definitely agree. It shouldn't be because of that. It should be just rooted in plain, simple, like biological means, right? That probably if you're not a biological woman, and even if you're like post-op and all that stuff, that is still an issue for a lot of these women, and I totally understand that. Totally do. So with the Speaker Johnson one, let's play that because I thought this was hilarious.
Hello, everybody. I just want to make a statement for all of you here and be very clear. I was asked a question this morning at the leadership gaggle, and I rejected the premise because the answer is so obvious. For anybody who doesn't know my well-established record on this issue, let me be unequivocally clear. A man is a man, and a woman is a woman, and a man cannot become a woman. That said, I also believe that's what Scripture teaches, what I just said. But I also believe that we treat everybody with dignity. And so we can do and believe all those things at the same time. And I wanted to make that clear for everybody because there's lots of questions. But that's where I stand.
Yeah, Fabian. So, and again, like what is this, first grade or something like that? Like, do we have to keep going over and over? This is Congress, right? We shouldn't be playing around.
It's not a school district. It's not a city council. This is the federal government.
Yeah. And again, I understand the issue, right? It's the first time, it's unprecedented. You're going to have to do something about it. And this is the perfect time to say, okay, well, yeah, the person who's now a woman kind of, I guess, would fit into, like, wears a dress, has a, long hair and all this stuff.
Performative, David. It's performative.
All the, well, have a transgender bathroom. It solves all the damn issues, right? And what is the person going to feel like they're being, like, isolated or something?
Yeah, we
like
call
that?
it the free-for-all.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Well, this is a perfect example of how it's like, nobody says that a transgender person can't exist, that you don't have rights and all this stuff. It's just that when you start to bring it into public place like this, whether it's sports or bathrooms, then you're going to have to actually address it through some sort of policy. And for some reason, every single time that a person like Nancy Mace comes out and says, I'm not comfortable with that, all of a sudden, this is transphobia. This means that trans people can't exist or something like that. Bullshit. Seriously. It's like, what, we can't solve actual political or social issues now?
Well, here's the thing about the trans people exist is they're making their own problem that no one is talking about. And they're making a statement that people are saying that they don't exist. First of all, let's take it from an actual physical and science sense. No one is saying that these humans don't have material bodies. Okay, so it's not science, it's not physical. What is it next? Are they saying that they don't exist in society? Well, clearly they do, because they're literally in society, in the reality that we all live in.
To have an entire month dedicated for them.
Yes. And so they're basing it on an emotional argument that people don't realize their value in society. That's really what they're saying. That they don't. That's what they say when they say trans people exist. They're saying that a side that is not theirs is saying they don't exist when that's not even happening. So they're creating the problem, and they're offering the solution, which is let them have free reign of you, of your children, of everything they want, so that they don't feel oppressed.
I find it hilarious because a couple of days ago, I was also watching a bunch of leftists talk about how there's no trans issue. It's only the right saying that there's a trans issue. But you just said it perfectly. They are the ones that are creating the problem in the first place. And when you want to address the problem, they want to act like there's no problem. And it's...
Yeah, you create the problem. This is the George Soros method, which he loves to do. He didn't invent it, but you create the problem and you offer the solution. The solution that you offer has been pre-selected by you and your people. And then you spend money to push forward the idea of the solution. So people think they're being anti the problem. They're actually going to where the person wants them to go. And that's a scary thing, because people on the left understand it, but they don't understand that they're also being used for that exact same reason.
Absolutely. Here's another scary thing I want to show here. It's how do we...
Sorry, I just want to say someone commented and said, you guys are both so lost. I would love to hear how, if you'd like to comment more, why we're lost and where we should find whatever it is that we're looking for, apparently.
We're lost based on the biological, facts here.
Got it.
Okay, so this was pretty interesting. This is, of course, a Democrat Congresswoman Sarah Jacobs tweets out, or I guess retweets the original tweet, which was talking about Nancy Mace introducing a resolution to ban transgender women from using women's bathroom on Capitol Hill. She said, "It's funny that Republicans say we are obsessed with trans issues when they seem to be the ones obsessed with trans issues."
Again, am I 5 years old? No, I didn't say that. You said that. I didn't say that. These are the people that are writing the laws. Like, for God's sake, grow up.
Yeah.
Like, literally grow up. This is the worst argument I've ever seen.
Terrible. And I like how she tries to spin it here, which is why I tweeted this back at her. I said, is this how Democrats lie now? There's an incoming transgender representative, first time. This means it's necessary to address the bathroom issue on Capitol Hill. And then I asked her if she's okay with biological males using the same bathroom as her. And I really want to know is if she's fine with that. It's not a got you or something like that. It was just be interesting to know, what does she mean by that?
And again, I would even go as far to say maybe this is her tweeting, but most likely it's her staff. And her staff is probably comprised of the people on the left because that's what we saw. Kamala Harris's campaign was full of leftists, young people who just really believe this stuff, who have been really well indoctrinated. And maybe it was her, but I doubt she will respond to something like this.
You know who definitely was tweeting this, and it wasn't their staff, is this Brian Tyler Cohen guy. He's actually a predominant big voice on the left. He has a big YouTube show and whatnot, but he said, I wish I cared about anything as much as Nancy Mace cares about where other people pee. And then I said, you don't care about protecting women, because that is usually what they hit us with, right, when it comes down to abortion. So yeah, no, Fabian, this is just really funny to me. I wanted to just cover this story because everybody's going crazy about it on Capitol Hill, and rightfully so, because one, you have an unprecedented moment where a transgender individual now is a representative in the House, in a couple months will be. And what do you do when it comes down to such a heated issue that is reflective across the whole U.S.? I remember when this was a big deal, I think under Obama's presidency in North Carolina, maybe it was Trump's presidency, but North Carolina, Nancy Mace already dealt with this in North Carolina.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? I would say, okay, if you want that to happen, why don't you just allow men to use the bathroom you're in? Right? Like, okay, cool. You start. You're a leader. You be the voice for these people that apparently don't exist. Allow a bunch of dudes to come into your bathroom.
I want to see Nancy Pelosi do it, actually.
Yeah. Nancy Pelosi, Adam Schiff, just all of them. Throw them in the bathroom.
Yeah.
And see how they like it.
Exactly. One
See
bathroom.
how they like it.
Actually, in Israel, that's what it's like when you go out in the nightlife and whatnot. It's a lot of places. It's just one bathroom. That wasn't the most comfortable, really. And I'm a dude. I'm a guy.
Yeah, LA has a lot of these same, like, where everyone uses the bathroom, and it's not cool. It's very awkward.
It's pretty.
Very awkward. And these are biological women who are just women, like regular women, actually using the bathroom with regular men.
Yeah.
And even that's weird. So I can only imagine, someone coming in, and I'm like, hey, bro, you got to step outside and wait for me, because we're not doing this right now. We're not doing this right now. You exist. I see you exist, but you got to wait.
Yeah, absolutely. It should be interesting. I wonder how it'll play out, especially because now Capitol Hill, all of these people that are so disconnected from their actual constituents will have to deal with an issue that their constituents probably are dealing with, right? We saw how well that ad played out, where it was like Kamala's for they, them, right? So we know that this issue actually means a lot to Americans. And we always say this on the show, 66% of Democrats even say they don't rock with this trend stuff for the kids. So should be interesting how it plays out. Now the issue is in Capitol Hill, the same issue that's been across all these various places. So
yeah, it's going to be an interesting fight.
Yeah.
So let's take a quick commercial, and then when we come back, we are going to play the reactions that we filmed yesterday with Haley McAnally, and we'll be right back after this. And we are back for our next segment, because we had yesterday Haley McAnally on the show, who is a very big and very sweet person, but a very big political conservative voice in the women's space. And she came on with us, and we reviewed a lot of funny videos, and we reacted to them. A lot of them we hadn't seen for the first time. It was our first time seeing it. So, David, you want to intro into the video?
Let's do it. So what is this? We react, you enjoy.
That's about it.
That's about it. So sit back, relax, and enjoy, because this stuff is incredible.
It doesn't want me to look like this. That's why I'm here.
Some people out there in our nation don't have maps, and I believe that our education, like such as South Africa and the Iraq, everywhere like such as, and I believe that they should, our education over here in the U.S. should help the U.S. or should help South Africa. It should help the Iraq and the Asian countries. So we will be able to build up our future.
Tell the guys like trying to hold back and not laugh right there. It's hilarious.
That meme from The Office, where Pam is like, show me the difference between these two pictures. And
Yeah.
the same picture. That's exactly what just happened just now, for sure.
I love that Mario Lopez somehow kept a straight face through that whole thing, because he was probably thinking, what in the hell is going on right now? They pay me a lot of money to shut up and smile.
Same thing that Oprah was actually thinking right there in that clip with Kamala. And here's the thing is that like Biden doesn't really make sense, but I feel like Biden makes more sense than Kamala, because although Biden, you don't really know what he's saying, at least he doesn't give you a bunch of word salad. Like Kamala just says any word.
Can you tell me what exactly happened there that